morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can I declare this meeting open? I welcome councillors, staff and members of the public. Can I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Noongar Wadandi people, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay our respects to all members of the Aboriginal community and their culture, and to elders past, present and emerging. We're all here this evening except the Mayor, who's an apology, and Councillor Steck, who's online. Not here physically, but here online. Thank you. The Mayor has an approved leave of absence, and we'll deal with that when we come to that item. Councillors, I have 3 declarations of interest at this point. Councillor Andrew, Councillor Gasseb and Councillor Steck on 12.4.1. Are there other conflicts of interest, please? No, thank you. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have no public question time.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, may I please interrupt, because I just want to be very, very clear that my report for the proposed scheme amendment number 11 from last week is still a proximity interest for this week.
Thank you, Councillor Steck. Thank you. Councillors, we have no petitions, no presentations, but we do have deputations. So can I get councillors to vote on Dr. Marilyn Palmer, Diane Kavanagh, Canella Hope and Eve Parsons, please? Can you councillor move that, please, councillors? Councillor Steele, second councillor Costa, sorry, councillor, I was looking that way. All in favour? Thank you. That's
yes,
carried.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Stick. That's carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move on to a method of dealing with the agenda business coming out for discussion because they require absolute majority in some cases. Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry, I'm going ahead. We need to confirm the minutes of the last meeting. Someone prepared to move? Councillor Stick? Councillor Quain. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, Councillor Steck. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We now move on to the method of dealing with the agenda business. The items that do have to come out for discussion. No, there's none apparently. Thank you. 10.3.3 Bushfire Brigade's local law requires an absolute majority. 10.4.1. That's the item where we have deputations. 10.5.2, which requires nominations. Is there any others that which you wish to come out for discussion, councillors? Councillor Steele? 10.5.1. 10.5.1, yes. And 10.3.2, just question. 10.3.2, thank you.
If I may, Mayor.
Councillor Turner.
10.4.2.
10.4.2. Thank you. Any further? Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Councillors, we now have to go back one step and confirm the minutes of the special council meeting, please. Can someone move that, please? Councillor Quain moved. Councillor Steele seconded. All in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Councillor Steck?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Carried unanimously. We now move on to, although we've had a request from Councillor Steck to move to 10.4.1, is that acceptable to Council? Then that will also give us a chance to let our deputation speak early rather than wait all the way through. Is that acceptable, councillors? Someone, do we need a mover on that? No? Just move. So we're going to move 10.4.1 early on to the agenda. Now, the items that have not out for discussion, is someone prepared to move those on block, please? Councillor Kosasek, Councillor Quain, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sex. That means 10.2.10.2.1, 10.3.1, at 10.3.4, 10.4.1 to go through en bloc. Thank you very much, councillors. No, that's on for debate. Thank you. So I'll now call
Madam Chair, can I just leave?
Councillor Steele, you need to declare a conflict of interest on this issue.
Yes, I will leave the meeting and then I will come back.
Thank you. I understand the minute taker is going to put you in what's called the wait room. Okay, so, all right. Thank you, councillor Steele.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would Dr. Marilyn Palmer like to come forward, please? Thank you. You've got 10 minutes, Dr. Palmer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs Deputy Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to present this evening. My family has lived at 18 Austell Parade for 39 years, and I'm speaking this evening to encourage all of you to defer your vote on the proposed scheme amendment number 11 in relation to additional uses at lot 150 Austell Parade, which is the Parade Hotel and Car Park. My reasons are twofold. I believe there's been inadequate consultation with local residents, and secondly, we desperately need council to provide some serious oversight and long-term strategic planning for East Bunbury. In relation to the first issue of consultation with the residents, individual notices for this scheme amendment were only sent to residents living within 100 metres of the site, which we live within that range, but local residents who live outside that radius, for example in Perkins Avenue, were not notified, and yet they experience congestion and verge parking whenever there's a large event at the Parade Hotel. As you're aware from last week, there were 6 objections that were noted in the planner's report to councillors, but there were also 17 signatures on a petition. So 17 residents agreed with the following statement. We feel the proposed changes will seriously impact the local community in the long term and cause traffic congestion and parking problems. The current zoning allows ample opportunity for the operation of the hotel. We're concerned that the proposed changes to the zoning will benefit the owner immensely at the expense of the local community and its environment. There was one submission which was deemed to be in support of the proposal. However, it also strongly expressed concerns about parking and traffic congestion, despite acknowledging that there was some validity to the proposal. So it's reasonable, I think, to assume that there's 24 people who have expressed substantial concern about this proposal. In particular, what we see as a premature move to approve the amendment. Whilst council staff are not obliged to engage with people who lodge objections, my understanding is that best practice in planning is to engage early and often with key stakeholders and to share all relevant information. Things like local traffic counts, any current data on local traffic movements ought to be shared with residents and councillors when they're considering the importance of an important amendment such as this. We need to ensure that good decisions are made. In addition, the statement on the notice we receive that residents cannot copy or share plans and documentation with third parties seems to me absurd and intimidatory. So when we get that notice, and this is the second one we've had recently, it makes this clear statement, which is, I find, confusing and certainly intimidatory in terms of wanting to actually engage more widely with the community about this proposal. At this point, let me say that no one with an eye on sustainability objects or ignores the importance of appropriate inner-city residential housing development. We all know that quality developments are essential in order to alleviate really significant social issues such as housing shortage, urban sprawl and car dependency. In light of that, let me explore and talk to you a bit about my second point, which is that there's a desperate need for top quality strategic planning and oversight over the future development of this part of East Bunbury. Last week in her presentation to Council, Ms Canella Hope from Planning Focused used the words altruistic and initiated by Council in reference to this matter. I've been unable to get a satisfactory explanation from planning staff about what might have been meant by those comments, and I apologise to her if I misheard them in any way. However, I'm led to believe from a range of conversations that I've had that this amendment is seen by some councillors as facilitating an increase in the number of future rateable properties in the city. I recently heard the Mayor on radio lament the fact that Bunbury is running out of new sources of rate revenue. While I understand and sympathise, unfettered growth without careful regard for the impact is not an acceptable solution. In my view, this proposal is being considered by Council without due regard for the impact on the community of the current approved development proposed for the 3-storey residential building, which will soon be built on Lot 51 and Lot 59 Austral Parade, also known as the Keys development site. In addition, Lot 50 Austral Parade, which is tract of land currently zoned road reserve and adjacent to the Nick Saulis Park in East Bunbury, is on the market. If sold, no doubt, it will also be subject to an application for a planning scheme amendment in the future, with the new owners likely hoping to get approval for future and further residential development. Before any additional development proposals or scheme amendments are considered for this local centre in East Bunbury and immediate surrounds, I believe Council needs to do thorough modelling and assessment on the implications for traffic congestion, car parking, public transport needs, and access to public open space going forward. In relation to this, Council's apparent moratorium on requirements for public open space is of serious concern. This planning process that I'm proposing needs to be one which proactively engages with local residents. Council already has a list of at least 24 engaged and concerned citizens with whom they can consult. My final point is that it's obvious that any additional high-density development on the Parade Hotel and Car Park site will exacerbate the already high levels of traffic congestion along Austral Parade and parking shortages around the intersection of Austral Parade, Stirling Street and the Parade Hotel. It's highly likely that in the medium to long term, significant traffic management and engineering works will need to take place to mitigate the inconvenience and the lack of safety for all residents and visitors to this area. This might be traffic lights or the closure of Austral Parade's exit onto Kumbana Drive, the closure of Hoff Street or Stirling Street, or extensive traffic calming. None of these solutions would be ideal, but these kinds of ad hoc, inadequate solutions to poor planning decisions are sadly not uncommon. Either way, when councils approve applications without due consideration for the future, we end up with another situation where the private developer reaps all the benefits and the ratepayers or the taxpayers are left to pick up the bill. This is hardly fair or just. I urge councillors tonight to postpone any decision on this amendment while they undertake their due diligence around planning for East Bunbury, with an eye on the future rather than short-term gains. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Palmer. Diane Kavanagh, would you like to come to the microphone? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to address you with respect to item 10.4.1 on the agenda, proposed scheme amendment number 11 to City of Bunbury Local Planning Scheme number 8, proposed additional uses at lot 150, number 1 Austral Parade, East Bunbury. My objection to the proposed scheme amendment at this time relates to the first of the local centre zoning objectives referred to in the document which you will have read in the council papers, to provide services for the immediate neighbourhoods that are easily accessible and which do not adversely impact on adjoining residential areas. I believe the proposed amendment could allow developments which indeed adversely impact on adjoining residential areas, an area in which I live along Austral Parade, beyond the 100-metre limit, so I didn't get the letter that Dr. Palmer was privileged to get about the proposal. Allowing the option of additional uses on the southern section of lot 150 Austral Parade would open the door to a level of development which will inevitably increase traffic along Austral Parade, King Road and Stirling Street, and would exacerbate parking congestion in the local area. Austral Parade is a busy road in a residential area with inherently dangerous intersections with Hoff Road and King Road. I note Austral Parade is listed for Black Spot roadworks, which have been deferred. I was unable to ascertain from the council website as to what part of Austral Parade this refers, but as the subject of a Black Spot project, I suggest this supports my concern for road safety in the area. City of Bunbury officer comments relating to traffic concerns raised by local residents in the community consultation submissions state that we should be reassured that the city is in the concept planning for a possible safe active street project along this portion of Austral Parade. This portion of road would include raised intersections, Austral Parade, King Road and Hoff Road, to promote slower vehicle speeds and improve pedestrian crossings. But why should we be reassured when the city has had this possible project under consideration since before the COVID epidemic? Residents were circulated with concept plans and asked for feedback. Since then, we have seen nothing to confirm the project will proceed, let alone what the final project would look like and when it would be completed. I respectfully request that the council not approve any zoning change that will facilitate or encourage development with potential to increase road traffic along Austral Parade until such time as proposed streetscaping and traffic calming measures have been agreed, funded and completed. I note the city's designation of an Inlet South tourism precinct. This area is great for tourist foot, cycle and, if we must, scooter traffic. The local centre precinct at the junction of King and Hoff Roads with Austral Parade is not suited to facilitation of ambitions which will inevitably increase motor vehicle traffic and parking congestion. It is a very small land footprint which only just copes with the parking requirements of current community-oriented businesses in the area. Any current sense of space to spare will be abolished once the Leschenault Quays development has been completed. The applicant and city officer comments in response to the community feedback comments do not seem to acknowledge the small land footprint at the entire local centre precinct. There are very limited parking expansion options available. Once completed, the Leschenault Quays site mixed residential business development will likely further aggravate an already problematic issue. I am concerned that this lack of acknowledgement of potential future parking congestion in this very confined area would in the end result in the city having to consider conversion of residential land into car parking or further compromise the Buswell foreshore with unsightly parking bay extensions. Therefore, I think it may be sensible to defer consideration of expanding development options for the Lot 150 southern site in particular until the impact on local parking of the Leschenault Quays development is clearly manifest. I also would like to add a word of caution with respect to future tourist activity around the Inlet South Tourism Precinct. Bunbury is exceptionally fortunate to have Leschenault Inlet and the Calgalup Regional Park Mangrove Cove Precinct on the doorstep of the CBD. This is a very precious and readily accessed natural asset frequented by many native species, including our local dolphins, and as recorded in Australia's National BirdLife Database, 95 resident and migratory bird species. It is a fish and crab nursery and sustains the most southerly white mangrove ecosystem in WA. Insensitive development activities in and around the inlet could very easily degrade the environmental quality of the area as both a community wellbeing asset and an ecotourism asset. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
Thank you very much, Mrs Kavanagh. We now have Canella Hope speaking on this item.
Thank you, and good evening, councillors. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak this evening. As indicated, I'm Canella Hope and I'm a planning consultant. I'm here representing the owner of the Parade Hotel, Andrew Harris, who is here with me tonight. As I indicated last week, Andrew endorses the officer recommendation in this amendment, and we encourage councillors to proceed and endorse the amendment as it stands. We've worked very closely with officers to reach this point, and in fact, the early push for this scheme amendment actually was the city officers coming to my client, Andrew. And that was with us, well, it was looking forward and also trying to rectify some anomalies. The amendment has been carefully shaped around the additional uses, which is limited to only 3 additional uses, and there are quite particular conditions that have been aligned to each of these. The land is already within the local centre zone, and this already permits various commercial and residential development. This doesn't change with this amendment. What exists is not affected. The Keys proposal that was mentioned before, that has been approved recently, and this demonstrates the scope that's already available under the current zone, and that includes for mixed-use multi-level development. This amendment, it simply allows what's already permitted, which is multiple dwellings or apartment-style residential development, to also be used for short-stay accommodation. So it's not new, it's allowing some flexibility in using that building for another purpose. This is consistent with state government direction, and it's also consistent with cities' policies, for example, around tourism and housing choice. The other facet of this scheme amendment is hotel use. The car park already exists across the road, and the condition that's proposed in this amendment does particularly limit public bar to only being on the northern side of Austral Parade. Andrew does not have any immediate plans to redevelop the car park, particularly, as I mentioned last week, given the very costly impacts of the recent storm events upon his business. But these uses do allow some level of future-proofing, and I think what I said last week was opportunistic flexibility, capitalising upon the potential of this location. This amendment seeks to change the planning scheme rules. It's not a development application. That would have to be considered through its own process in the future, and very carefully considered. The context of this location, car parking for the hotel would need to continue to be accommodated, but also car parking for that development. As council would be aware, traffic increases linked to a particular development, the developer is liable to address that. But this broader question of broader traffic implications in this area, this scheme amendment, I don't see that there's a link, and this scheme amendment can't resolve that. It's really a separate strategic level consideration of all of the development in that area. It's already permitted under the zone provisions that apply, and this amendment really is capitalising upon that. In terms of redeveloping the car park, it is a complex site. It's not going to be easy to do, but it does need an economy of scale and a lot of things considered, including that amenity impact that would need to be carefully looked at, but not through this process, through a development application in the future. Just to conclude, Andrew is committed to the ongoing success of the Parade Hotel. I know it's a complex situation at the moment, looking to repair the building and then move on with business as usual. This scheme amendment is a proactive scheme amendment, and we encourage councillors to support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Hope. Councillors, the executive recommendation is on your screens and on your agenda. Is anyone prepared to move this? Councillor Quain?
Deputy Mayor, can I quickly ask a question?
Yes.
Does the staff currently have a strategic plan for that area, or has there been discussions to implement a strategic plan?
Yeah, just a moment, please, Councillor Quain. Quayne, we probably need to get this motion on the books first before you ask your question. So someone prepared to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Andrew, seconder? Councillor Ramesh? Okay, go ahead and ask your question now, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So yeah, the question is, do the staff have plans to implement a strategic plan for that area, considering their interest in the development of that zone sort of area? Thank
Then
you.
Councillor Quayne, Acting CEO.
I'll refer this to the Director Sustainable Development, please. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I might just defer that question to Manager of Planning and Building.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, so the City of Bunbury has a local planning strategy, and that sets out the planning vision for the future 15 years. So that was undertaken in 2018 and was gazetted, and that looked at that area and would have looked at the entire city holistically in terms of the zoning as well as the road hierarchy and the densities. So that has already been looked at, which was then implemented into the local planning scheme.
Thank you. Is there any further questions on that item before we begin debate, councillors? Councillor Steele?
Thank you. So apologies, I wasn't here last week to ask these questions. So the land has been amalgamated onto one title. Can someone give me an explanation as to when that happened and why that happened? And does this usually happen if there's a road running through the middle of two basically two sets of land?
Thank you. Acting CEO.
I'll refer that to the Director, please.
Through you, Mayor. I actually believe that the outcome of amalgamating the land is of benefit to the city, in that in terms of use of the site, the property is to be dealt with as one land holding. It can't be split off and sold off in its current form. So I think it provides some certainty about parking and other requirements.
Did that answer your question, Councillor
Didn't answer my
Steele?
question. So my question was, does this usually happen when there's a road in the middle having two titles thing? So I would like to know, is that a usual thing to happen, and when it happened? Why?
CEO, Acting CEO.
Thanks. Through the Director to the Manager, please.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So the application for the amalgamation is actually for the northern side of Austral Parade. That was actually 3 lots, and so we received an application for amalgamation to merge that into the 1 lot. So the Parade Hotel and the car park site have always been, for a long period of time, been on the one title, and they're called a vinculum lot. So it does occur where there is a road running through. You typically see them in rural types of developments as well. So the actual amalgamation has been submitted within the last 18 months through the West Australian Planning Commission, and that was to amalgamate a couple of separate lots on the northern side of Austral Parade.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions before we begin debate on?
My other question is regarding what Mrs Kavanagh brought up about the Black Spot Road, which I'm assuming is what was from Stirling Street Arts Centre down to the Parade Hotel. I didn't know that had been deferred, so when will that go ahead and how that will affect that area as well? Which
Acting CEO.
can I just ask if that's the land that we're going to reduce it to 40 kilometres per hour and put in bike lanes basically as well?
Acting CEO.
Thank you. To the Director, please. Thanks.
Through you, Mayor. I'm advised that we're unsuccessful with the Black Spot grant funding. However, the city has planned roadworks over this next year to actually provide some traffic control along Austral Parade.
Acting CEO, I've got a question there. We did have plans for upgrading Stirling Street. Where is that at this stage? Do we know? Yeah.
Thank you. Through the Director, please.
I might have to defer that one to the Acting Manager of Infrastructure.
Thank you. Councillors, any further questions on this item? Sorry? Or Councillor? Who's got to answer a question? Yeah, so, Ms McRobert, could you explain that again, please? Yeah, thank you, if you'd like to go ahead, thank you.
that one, sorry. There is some plans currently on the bottom end of Austral Parade for traffic calming. The Stirling Street is still under design, so it probably wouldn't be until the 25, 26 budget.
Thank you, Ms Clements. Thank you. Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just, I guess, very quickly, this is just a scheme amendment at this stage, and acknowledging the concerns of the residents and the points that they've raised. A lot of those points will be considered if and when development actually happens. So by approving a scheme amendment, we're not giving development approval, we're not giving them the green tick. They're still going to have to invest in traffic management plans and going to have to do their acoustic plans. There's a whole range of things that can happen. At the moment, we've just got a scheme amendment before us to tidy up some inconsistencies that have been around for many years, and it's a very simple process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ramesh.
I reserve my rights to state that.
Anyone against this motion? Is there a speaker against this motion? No? Councillor Andrew, would you like to close debate? That's the case, councillors. Could you please indicate on this matter, please? All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Councillor Quain? That's carried. Thank you. We're now, councillors, I'm just going to make a request. We have a Mrs Eve Parsons here. Pardon? Councillor Steck, like to come back online, please. Thank you for the reminder. Mrs Parsons, do you still wish to speak to Councillor Gasseb's motion on notice? No? No, thank you. So, thank you. We'll move on. Thank you, councillors. We're now up to 10.3.2, rate exemption for Forest Avenue.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councillor Steck.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Councillor Steck. Councillor Steck, do you have something to tell us? We can't hear you, councillor.
I can hear you now,
Okay.
Madam
Chair. Thank. So can I just confirm where we're up to, please?
We're up to 10.3.2.
Which is?
Which is rate exemption application.
Rate exemption. Thank you, Madam.
2196 Forest Avenue.
Thank
you. Is there any questions on this matter, councillors? You have questions, Councillor Steele? We'll need to probably get it moved first. Can someone move this executive recommendation, please? Councillor Turner, seconded. Councillor Kozisek. Councillor Steele.
As per usual, my concerns are how much money we lose for not-for-profits in our rates. So, and though this is not directly aimed at these people either, are we able to start limiting what, because as a service centre, which Bunbury is, we're getting more and more not-for-profits within our city centre boundaries, or can we approach someone higher above, like federal government, or someone to actually try and get some sort of compensation for the amount of not-for-profits that Bunbury is now having to sustain and the amount we're losing? Are we able to look at that?
Can I just raise a point of order? That is a state government issue, Madam Chair, not a government issue for 6.1 to 4 on the Local Government Act.
Councillor Steele, I think that Councillor Steele can ask the question, and it's probably something that can go to the zone, I would think, Councillor Steele. Do you have any further questions? Thank you. Someone prepared to move this executive recommendation? Councillor Turner, you've done that. Councillor Kozisek, do you wish to speak, Councillor Turner? Reserve your right, Councillor Kozisek. Anyone against this recommendation? Councillor Turner, do you wish to close? Okay, thank you. I'll put this motion. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. 10.3.3 requires an absolute majority. Councillor Steck, did you vote on that?
Yes, I said absolutely.
In the affirmative?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. 10.3.3, Bushfire Brigades Local Law 2024. This does require an absolute majority. The recommendation is on the screen. Councillors, do you want to prepared to move this recommendation, please? Councillor Andrew, seconded. Councillor Brown. Is there any likely to be any debate on this, councillors? If not, I'll put this motion. All those in favour? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. 10.4.2, Department of Local Government, Sport and Culture and Interest. Councillor Turner, you wish to move this motion? Seconded. Councillor Quain. Likely be any debate on this, councillors? If not, you'd like to speak, Councillor Turner?
I wasn't originally going to pull this one out, but I just wanted to commend the Bunbury Shooting Club for actually improving their facilities for accessibility. It's something through the Disability Inclusion Committee we've been pushing hard for clubs and football clubs and non-for-profits to get behind and actually improve their accessibility by doing audits. So it's wonderful to see them doing it for their current members and to also encourage new members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Who is the seconder on that motion? Councillor Quain, do you wish to say anything? Thank you. Is there likely to be any, is there any speaker against this executive recommendation? If not, Councillor Turner? Okay. Councillors, be prepared to vote. Everyone in favour of this motion? All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. 10.5.1, Street Tree Maintenance Services. Can I get this on the books first before there's any questions? Is someone prepared to move this? Councillor Quain, seconded. Councillor Andrew. Councillor Steele, do you have any questions on this?
So, question will be that I had a couple of complaints with the last tree, and I just want to make sure that my question would be that hopefully we keep up the same standard of what we have been having for our tree cutting. So the question would, do they have an agreement of how they're going to cut our trees?
Acting serious.
It's very hard to try and make that without being a debate.
Thank you. Can I refer this to the Director of Infrastructure Services?
Through you, Mrs Mayor. Yes, there is a standard of service and they also have the QUATA requirements to cut to the trees.
I suppose my question would be, how I can answer it, not just lobbing off the top of the trees underneath a PowerPoint, will there be also that they can round them off nicely as well? So everyone has pride in their street. I know that was a bit of a statement, so I apologise.
Thank you, Councillor. Point taken. Anything the Director would like to add?
Through you, Mrs Mayor. Yes, we could add that, Councillor Turner, Steele, but we'd also have to look at some of the trees under the power lines are actually cut by Western Power, not our service providers.
I actually have a question myself on this issue. Many a time, what seems to be a perfectly healthy tree is removed. Do we have anything in place that assesses a tree before it's removed or trimmed? Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
We actually have the tree policy going into the next policy review to determine more rightly what it is, but sometimes a healthy tree can also be causing structural damage and that's why the tree would be removed.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I please?
Question?
Yes, I do. Can I just please ask, in relation to structural damage, at what time is that actually declared, considering like root damage and things like that? When does council, I suspect,
Thank you. Acting CEO.
look at structural damage?
Thank you for the question. Can I direct that to Ms Clements, please?
Through you, Mrs Mayor, Councillor Steck, usually we don't go and assess all the trees, but it is the resident who actually brings us to our attention and we do go out and have the assessment done. If the tree can't be root bound and trimmed back enough, then the tree is removed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further questions on this item, councillors? If not, Councillor Quain, do you wish to speak to this? Right. Councillor Andrew? Thank you. Any like to be a speaker against this motion?
Madam Chair, can I just please make a comment? I do have to say that several years ago, and I continue to say it, the option for people and ratepayers to be given and provided the opportunity to at least trim their trees 0.1 metre, because sometimes they are on
Councillor
pavement.
Steck, sorry, are you debating or is this a question, please?
I thought,
Because are you speaking
Well, with-
against the motion or?
yes,
You're
yes,
speaking against the motion?
yes, I
Thank
am,
you.
because it was moved and seconded.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that at this point of time, I need to actually say that on many occasions I have said that I have asked for have 0.5 of a metre to trim their tree, and yet sometimes it prohibits school children on pavements. Sometimes it doesn't allow for continuancy. Sometimes it doesn't have capacity for safety. So whilst I have, and this lopping off the top of our trees and making them safe, I have to say that I want ours for community and people to manage trees that are in dangerous space. Prior to this, it's over like millions of dollars worth. And I've said this before, and it's a reoccurring thing for me in all my years in local government.
Thank you, Councillor Steck. Is there a speaker for this executive recommendation? If not, Councillor Quain?
Sorry, I've got one more question, sorry. Only because now it's from the pink paper, but it's not actually going to be a confidential question that I've got to ask. I just have to ask, because I said about power line and just Western Power, but I noticed that part of this is also power line pruning as well. So if it's Western Power, why is it part of our, on the pink paper?
Okay, Acting CEO,
Try to
can we
say it without-
answer that without revealing, being behind closed doors?
Thank you. Can I direct that to the Director Infrastructure, please?
Through you, Mrs. Mayor. Yes, Western Power go around and assess all the trees under their power lines. If they find one is at risk straight away, they will trim it. Otherwise, they give us a 90-day notice. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Quain, are you prepared to close the debate, please? Well, it's a bit late for that, really, because I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour of this motion, please. Thank you, that's carried. Now up to 10.5.2, where we need some nominations for the representatives on the Strategic Asset Management Plan Working Group. We need 3 councillors, is that correct, Acting CEO? Yes, Councillor Turner, you moving this? Seconding? Councillor Quain? Okay, can I ask for nominations, please? Councillor Andrew? Councillor Turner? Anyone else? We need one.
I'd like to be on that, Madam Chair.
Pardon, Councillor Steck?
Yes, I would put my
You going to
nomination
put your
forward.
name down?
Yes, please.
Anyone else? So, because if we have another one, we'll have to have a vote. So anyone else nominating? No? We have, sorry, that's the 3? We've got 4, have we? We've got Quain, Andrew, Turner and Steck. 4, so we do need to have a vote on this, councillors. So, Mr Minute Taker, can you distribute some ballot papers? Thank you. Yes.
Deputy Mayor, can I please ask a question?
Yes, Councillor Quain.
Can we maybe have an amendment to include 4 councillors?
Can we do that? Yes. Would you like to move that as an amendment?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Is it someone prepared to second that? Councillor Steele? Like to be any debate on that, councillors? If not, we'll vote all those in favour of 4 councillors. Thank you. So that means, unless there's any other nominations, councillors Quain, Andrew, Turner and Steck. Thank you very much, councillors. Pardon? Yes, we now have to vote on the executive recommendations that we've endorsed those councillors. So is someone prepared to move, or Councillor Turner, you moved that. Councillor, second by Councillor Quain. Have any other comments, Councillor Turner? No. Thank you, Councillor Quain. Likely to be any debate against this, councillors? Okay, all those in favour of this item, please. Thank you, that's carried. Now, we're now up to 11, if I'm correct, Acting CEO. Applications for leave from the Mayor. Are we going to pass this or not? We're going to let him go or tell him he's got to come back? Yeah. Can someone move this, please? Councillor Steele, second to Councillor Brown. Likely to be any debate on this? All those in favour? Thank you. We'll leave him where he is. Thank you. Motions on notice. We have one from Councillor Gasseb, 12.1. Councillor Gasseb, do you wish to move this, please?
Yes, I'll move it, Madam Deputy Chair.
Is there a seconder for this motion, please? Councillor Brown. Likely to be any questions on this, councillors? Councillor Kozisek?
Madam Deputy, I'm just wondering whether this is something that is really more relevant to the zone in advocating for all councils to have this rebate advocacy for.
I had that same thought, Councillor Kozisek. In fact, I was going to say that the bulk of this rebate comes from the federal government, not from the state government. They only put in a portion. And I doubt whether the federal government will... yes. We're I was responding to a question, Councillor Turner. Okay. So just pointing out that this is federal government mostly, and but now I think there's a deputation towards this. Was that? I think Mrs. Parsons, did you want to speak to this? We did pass that you're allowed to speak to this, Mrs. Parsons, so if you'd like to come forward. Can someone pull that, Mr. Galinsky, could you pull the microphone down a bit, please? Thank you.
Hello, my name's Eve Parsons, and I would just like to talk on behalf of the pensioners. And as we know, everything has gone sky high, and a lot of pensioners are really struggling. And especially our veterans, you know, and I expect most of them, if they have savings, are probably diminished by now. And so I believe, you know, instead of a one-off payment, how about they have an increase in the pensioners, in the pensions. And, yeah, sorry. Yeah. And also I'd like to mention our farmers. We all need our farmers, and I want to know why they have to be taxed by their dams, because they need the water, and surely it comes from above. So I'd like to bring that forward if I can, and I think that covers for the pensioners.
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gasseb.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I do acknowledge the questions about Wellga Zone. Yes, it's quite possible that may be the best pathway, and I do have that in my comments. So I guess we're talking about the intent here, so I don't have an issue if this does get supported, that it goes through the Southwest Wellga Zone. So, Madam Chair, Madam Deputy Mayor, it dawned on me this morning a real definition of what we are doing here. And it came in one word, what we're all doing here, and that is love. Love for our community. And through that love, it drives us to do whatever we can, whenever we can, however we can, whether it's advocacy or doing things ourselves, for people in our community. So, and this is just one idea, and I'm hoping it gets considered. Yes, so in this case, it would be helping the elderly, widow, the war veterans, other people that perhaps need help in our community, who are struggling. I do acknowledge that both state and federal government have made several initiatives to help in different ways, and that's appropriate. In this particular instance, Madam Chair, I believe we can support something like this without causing any sort of detriment, certainly to council and potentially to state government, because it is a circular economy and the funds do eventually come back. Can I just read one of the articles that one of the persons in the audience gave me to read, because she wasn't going to present tonight? And that is a reference to an article in today's paper about the price paying right at home. Bunbury residents are spending more and more of their local income on keeping a roof over their heads and so on. So, Madam Chair, without going into too much detail, the pensioner rebates, the seniors rebates, especially and in particular to council rates, are currently 50% of rates or capped at $750. We know things have moved on, rates have gone up, everything's gone up, but this is still at $750. So I'm suggesting we, promote this, advocate for this to go up to $1,000, which would be roughly 50% of the average rates these days anyway, certainly in our region. Thanks, Madam Deputy Chair.
Councillor Brown? Okay. Councillor Turner?
Thank you. I'm probably, forgive me if I'm wrong, I'm probably one of the only people sitting on this council that has actually used this subsidy, being a single parent and with a mortgage. So I know how important that funding is, and of cutting down your rates and is of great benefit. But there's also good advocacy compared to poor advocacy. Just sending off a letter to the state government saying we want to change it from 750 to 1,000 isn't going to do anything. And if you've done the maths and worked out how much that costs just Bunbury alone, you're looking at just under $1 million. The state government times that by how many different shires we have around the state, you're talking multi-million dollars that the state or federal government or whatever would have to come up with to just be able to do this. So if we're going to do it, let's do it properly, and let's get all the councils on board and take it to Welga or something like that. But I think just sending a letter off to the state government with just the City of Bunbury is not going to do anything for anybody. So I'd much prefer that staff work on this, or somebody else does it up and does it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor
So I
Turner.
won't be voting for this.
Councillor Quain, you speaking for?
Deputy Mayor, can I ask a question or make an amendment?
Yes.
That the amendment is to also consider the federal government, because I do
Point
think...
of order, I don't think someone can actually do an amendment to someone else's actual...
Yeah, probably right. Yeah, sorry, Councillor Quain, I think Councillor Steele's probably right on that one. So someone for this motion?
Can I just raise another point? I tend to disagree with Karen, Councillor Turner's comments, because I am a practicing geriatrician. I deal with patients of all ages at various groups. I think it's what Councillor Gazeb is asking, just a letter of recommendation or letter of recommendation from the council. It shows that we are a compassionate council. It's not going to make any differences, but at least it's a start. It's a start for other shires and councils to follow. Whether it'll come to any fruition, I'm not sure. But as a practicing geriatrician, I think it's a right way to start. Where it goes, we never know, but I think it's still a good suggestion. And I think we should still go ahead with the letter of support.
Thank you, Councillor Ramesh.
May I move an amendment?
Sorry?
Can I move an amendment?
Point of order, I'm sorry, but I don't think you're actually on motions on notice able to do, correct me if I'm wrong, you aren't allowed to change.
I think this might
point
have
of
to be
order.
voted down first before there's an amendment. Is that correct? Can we ask governance?
So point of order.
Just a moment, councillor Steck. We're trying to sort out the governance here, please. Mr Galinsky?
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor. Through you, a motion is a motion now that it's on the table, regardless of whether it's a motion on notice. So if an amendment doesn't significantly either detract from the motion that's on the table or significantly change it, I don't see any reason, and there's certainly no legal reason why a minor amendment cannot be considered. If an amendment was to significantly affect the intent of the motion, then it probably would not be accepted. But if it's something minor, there's no reason why it can't be
Okay,
considered.
thank you very much. Okay, just before we get to that, I wish to make a few comments against this motion, councillor Gassep, and I believe that the intent is great and we should be supporting our pensioners and senior citizens, which we do through what we can and through our Senior Citizen Centre. But I think that this is aiming at the wrong target. It's federal government money that was cut out under a previous federal government. They reduced the funds. The state occasionally, I think, I'm not quite sure, but I think they match some of it, not completely, but it's mostly federal money. So we should be aiming at the federal government, and I agree with Councillor Turner that this should be a matter for the zone and for Walga. I think that the City of Bunbury on its own is not going to get anywhere. We need a bit of punch behind this, and we need other people to be on board to push the federal government to get back to what they were doing before. So is there any more speakers for councillors before we go to the amendment? So, Mr Galinsky, just a moment. Do we keep the debate or do we then move the amendment at this stage?
It's up to you as chair, but ordinarily one would consider the amendment in Councillor Gassep's case,
Okay.
hear what he has to say, Chair.
Okay, so Councillor Gassep, you would consider an amendment?
Thank you, Madam. I'm listening, Madam Deputy Chair. So can I just make the amendment that the motion becomes that the City of Bunbury advocate through the Southwest Wagga Zone, and the rest of the motion is the same.
Okay, you're moving that?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Councillor Steele, Stickett seconded. Councillor Steele, you've
Could
got
I
a
just
comment?
ask that Councillor Gassep also adds though, I think, did you want to get rid of the right to the state government, or did you want to leave that in there?
No, well,
Yeah.
I'm open to your suggestion, but that was what I was hearing is we remove the state government and just put in through Southwest Wagga Zone. I'm open to your suggestion.
Councillor Quaid.
Deputy Mayor, would Councillor Gassep also consider including federal government in his amended motion?
Councillor Gassep.
I'm very open to any suggestion that will help us to get through this with everybody's blessing.
Okay, so what have we got here? So who's moving this amendment? Councillor Gassep, you're moving the amendment?
I'll move the amendment.
Okay, who's seconded this amendment? Councillor Quain, you're seconding the amendment? Councillor Steck, yes, thank you. You're a bit disconcerting up there, Councillor Steck, because you're not sitting next to me as normal.
I know, sorry.
Councillor Zenley, like to be any speaker against the amendment? No? So I'll put the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? Thank you, that's carried. We now go back to the executive recommendation that the City of Bunbury advocate through the Southwest Wagga Zone State Government and Federal Government for increased rebates to service charges for eligible pensioners and seniors in relation to their local government rates, etc., etc. The original mover of this motion was Councillor Gassep. You wish to say anything further, Ms Councillor Gassep?
Not sure whether that before state it should be to state government.
Two.
So through Southwest Wagga Zone to, yeah, well to the state, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the intent is all there, Madam Chair. Just to I won't go on too long, but in terms of government spending, I mean, I'll put my finance hat on. Spending in the community through governments does cause a multiplier effect. So by the time money is spent about 7 times, it dissipates, and along the way it collects revenue through GST, payroll tax, other forms of levies. And if it's spent immediately, as it would with pensioners, they're not likely to bank it, or seniors, then it's likely to come back into the revenue stream probably within the following financial year. So that's on the finance side. But I really appreciate the way the debate's gone and how everybody's showing that love, if you like, and I recommend that motion to you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown? You're the seconder of the motion. Okay. Any speakers against this motion? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you, that's carried. Thank you, Councillor Gassett. There are no responses to previous elected members' questions, and there are no questions from members, and we have no...
Madam Chair, can I just mute?
Yes, Councillor Steele.
I will be providing a motion on notice in relation to developments proceeding with Bunbury, in relation to what's occurred with 3330 Ocean Drive. And
Councillor Steck, we're going behind closed doors for that item, and I have to ask you if you're in a secure location before.
yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Councillor Steele's moved behind closed doors. Second, Councillor Brown. All those in favour?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. General public, I'm sorry, at this stage we're going behind closed doors, so I have to ask you to leave the chamber. Thank you. You're welcome to come back if you want to wait around. we back online, Mr Murphy? Yes, thank you. I will now read these two matters that were decided. The council has approved the appointment of a Director of Infrastructure, and that name will be released shortly. And 15.1.2.
I think you have to read the whole motion out. You have to actually read the actual effective resolution.
Well, I haven't done that, Councillor Steele, because I haven't got the pink paper in front of me.
It's up on the screen for you.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll read that. Thank you, Mr Murphy. 1. Note the recommendation contained in the confidential report of the interview panel and the Chief Executive Officer in relation to the appointment of the Director of Infrastructure. Note that following the negotiation and signing of the contract of employment, a formal public announcement is to be made. Thank you for your lesson. Thank you, Councillor Steele. Thank you. Thank you. I'll now move on, if I'm allowed to 15.1.2. The executive recommendation that Council endorses the termination of the sale and development agreement in place with Barnes Capital Proprietary Limited for the purchase of lot 330 Ocean Drive, Bunbury. Thank you, councillors. With that, I think that I can now close the meeting. I thank you for your attendance and wish you a good evening.
Thank you.